Almost more than a week ago, FlightRadar 24 pulled the plug on data streams that injectors like FSLTL relied on. In an earlier video we looked at the alternatives. Right, what are the alternatives to inject traffic into Flight Simulator 2024? But what if I told you that the solution might have already been sitting on your hard drive for a while? Today I will show you how to bypass the injectors entirely and get the best traffic you've ever seen in Flight Simulator 2024. In Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 we needed FSLTL because the default traffic was, well, it was a trash, right? Everybody knows. But with Flight Simulator 2024 that changed a bit because it's using FlightAware data natively. Yes, it's not 100% real time, right? There are sometimes 5 to 15 minutes delay compared to the real world, but for 90% of us that's plenty. The real world isn't the data, it's the liveries. Without the right models, FlightAware just spawns generic point nose white planes. Today I'm going to show you how to hijack the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 engine using the AIG and FSLTL libraries in combination. But first let's look how you can get those models. And to get those models you will first need to install some software. For the AIG models you will need to go to the AIG website and download the AIG AI Manager. A really simple installer which will download version 1.2 which is the latest. For the other tool, FSLTL, you need to go to Fly-by-Wire Sim. This gives you both the A32NX as well as the A380, as well as the option to install those flight models. Once you've installed them, right, I'm not going to show you the installation process, but I'm going to show you how to, in this case, install the models. We start with the ones from FSLTL. Depending on the version of Flight Simulator, make sure that you're having the right one selected here on the top and then go to this nice icon. This nice icon has the base models and has the injector. Don't install the injector, you don't need it, but select the top one, the base models, and then simply click on install. This will take some time, but eventually it will install everything. In my case it took roughly between 5 and 10 minutes and then it created it. But where does it create it? Where does it install it? Well, what you need to look at is if you go to your community folder, right? In my case it's the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 folder. Inside that I've got the community folder and there you will find a folder which is called FSLTL Traffic Base. Inside that directory you've got the sim objects and the airplanes, and that contains more than 2,500 folders, which are all aircrafts. And you can see that there's, I would say, kind of split by type. And then behind that you see the ICAO code of the airliner. And this is amazing because it has a lot of items, as you can see. Now for the other tool, I've installed it in my temp folder because you don't need to really install it, right? So once you install it, you need to start it and then it will likely prompt you to install 2 updates. So once you went through the update process, I already went through that, you need to select your Flight Simulator version and then press OK. Now once you've done this, you can say set up the OCI, which is the one-click installer. And if you click this link, it will bring you to a wizard and it will take you to the folder. It says, okay, hey, likely this is your community folder. Is that fine for you? You simply press next, you hit next, and then you're good to go. What I do recommend you to do is, I would say, have a look at the settings, because in some case, if you are running it, I've already installed it, make sure that you validate the settings and adjust them where needed. Once you've done that, you need to install the flight plans, because with the flight plans, there are also the models, and the models do include those liveries. So what you can do is you can go to install flight plan. What this one will do is will install everything, but it might be something you don't want to do. If that's the case, there's another trick. In that case, you need to go to the quick install or go to the flight plans and then select, for example, a specific region. In my case, I selected everything, so now everything is being installed. It's really up to you because this contains both the airliners as well as the general aviation aircrafts. So it's a lot of data which will be now added to Flight Simulator 2024. And if that's something you like, it's up to you. Does it impact the loading speed of Flight Simulator? Based on my testing, I didn't see a lot of impact, to be honest. I saw other tools which are causing more impact, but this one, I'm still testing it, but I don't think it causes that many impact. Could of course depend on your hardware, I'm not sure, but in Flight Simulator 2024, I didn't see a massive impact. Now I already see a lot of people thinking, do I really need to install it using that tool? Because it also adds a lot of other things, like the traffic files, for example. Not that they're too big, right? Because if we look at the size, right, it's roughly 22 megs, but you might want to, let's say, kind of have a clean hard disk. Well, there's some good news because there's Samuel Leonard. He created a GitHub repository, including a documentation, but also a link to a Google Drive where you can directly download the zip. And you can unzip it yourself. So you can do it yourself, right, depending on what you want, and use that package so you don't need to go to that tool. So once you've done that and installed both of them, there's that trick which you need to do to make sure that, for example, FSLTL is prioritized above. And now we discussed how to install those models. Let's first look at them individually to figure out, okay, hey, what's the quality of FSLTL versus AIG? And after that, I will show you a trick on how you can use both of them in Flight Simulator 2024. But first, let's discuss what you need to actually set up within the Flight Simulator configuration. So once in Flight Simulator, you need to check a few things. First of all, you need to go to the settings, and inside the settings, you need to go to the graphic settings where you go to the global rendering quality. Here you can define how much aircraft you want to see, especially in the parked aircrafts and the aircraft traffic quality. If you set them to ultra, both of them, then you will get a lot of variety. Also, if you switch to an offline model. But in this case, we want to have a real model. So you can, let's say, change this to, for example, low or to high or to medium, right? Depending on what you prefer. I have set them all to all, but I've got, pretty good CPU and pretty good GPU, right? Graphic card. So I decided to leave them like this. In addition to that, you need to go to your online settings and make sure that you have this setting set to real-time online, because that makes sure that you will get those aircrafts, which are in that case between brackets real-time online. Now, if you prefer to see the aircraft type and airliner, then make sure that you switch on this option in the flight interface, the show air traffic nameplates. If you don't switch them on, you won't see it, but I just show you, can decide yourself. Now I selected the Airbus A320neo already, so let's go to London Heathrow. So let's go over here, and London Heathrow is over here, right? So we can zoom to the details. And I want to warn you for a few things. And let me show you what I mean. So first of all, I'm gonna park the aircraft here, right? I'm gonna say this is the location. Now, initially what you will see is that this list is likely empty. So also if you now click on start, you will see sometimes this error, right? Error exiting live, retrying. Don't worry about this. Don't make changes to your configuration. This will fix itself, but it might take some minutes. I've seen it up to 10 minutes in some cases where you really need to wait. But as soon as this kicks in, then the aircrafts will come to life. And also the nice thing is that if you do that, then those new models will be picked up, right? Those models which we, just installed. Let me show you what you see initially. So you don't need to worry about this. Go to your, in my case, to my showcase. And then I will go in the air. So if I go in the air, what you will see is that it will show you all the default liveries. And then you might think, hey, but I installed a lot of those liveries, right? Here we can even see a larger aircraft. You sometimes can see it's a little bit stuttering, but hey, don't worry, it will fix itself. I can see larger aircrafts with, in most cases, the house liveries from the airliners or from the aircraft manufacturers. That results in a lot of, let's say, the same aircraft being displayed, except the one which you're flying, I would say, as a flight simmer. But if you wait for a while, you will see that the traffic will come alive. Now, of course, we can wait, then I can continue talking, but I thought that's not really realistic. So let's jump to the part where the air traffic comes to life. So we're above London Heathrow, and as you can see, the traffic has now kicked in. And how do you recognize that? Well, because there are all labels above these aircrafts. If it's a label, it means it comes from the live traffic. If it's non-labeled, it means it's those static aircrafts, those static parked aircrafts. Now, if we would go into the static parked aircrafts, you will of course see those between brackets not so realistic house liveries. In some cases you will see some more realistic liveries, but it really depends. I've seen various things. But if I would now go to this one, to the China Airlines CAL A2, you can see that this one has a realistic livery. Also, if we would move to the Air France aircraft which comes in, we can see that this livery is correct. If we move to this one, which is just coming in, it's also super realistic. So it looks like that the mapping works with FSLTL and also is pretty nice. And this is the same test, but then using the AIG liveries. And you can see a few things. One of them is, I would say, the lights, which are, I would say, not sure if they're on the correct spot, but you can see that blinks on the top of the aircraft. It's something different compared to the ones from, in this case, FSLTL. Also, you can see that in this case the Boeing 777 is using the house livery, so it doesn't match, I'd say, a normal aircraft, which I think in FSLTL was available. This is an impression of what you will get when you are using AIG. So now let's look in a different airport, different time of the day, on how it looks like with both combined. Before I show you how you can use them combined, I first need to show you that trick, because you need to perform a trick to say, hey, I want to prioritize this model above the other one. And that's by simply renaming the folder. So I'm in the community folder, and you can see that I renamed my FSLTL traffic basic folder to 01_. This makes sure that this folder will be read first before reading the other folders. Now you can of course also put, I would say, 099 or Z_, let's say, for the AIG ones, because you can see that for some aircrafts like the I&I builds as well as the PMDGs, they will have their own liveries which are always super high quality, so you might want to deprioritize the AIG traffic one and prefer the PMDG ones. If that's the case, then make sure that you rename this folder to Z_ something. Keep in mind that by renaming these folders, you won't have the ability to upgrade them automatically anymore using the tools. You need to rename them back, then update them, and then rename them again to make sure that you can use the latest and the greatest. Of course, for AIG, you can also download the content manually. And by the way, there's also a way for FSLTL, but for that one, I will show it a little bit later in this video. So to see how much delay there is, what we're going to do is we're going to compare Flight Radar 24 with FlightAware. FlightAware is a tool which is used in Flight Simulator 2024, and we're going to compare that against what we see in Flight Simulator 2024. And to do that, we need to, let's say, kind of decrease the size of this window a bit. Then I need to make sure that I'm, let's say, active in the correct position. So I'm going to go to the showcase mode, which brings us here, and then I'm going to let Flight Radar 24 open here. So what you will see likely is that there is a difference, right? Because if we would say zoom into this aircraft, you will see that in this case, this is an Air France aircraft, right? It comes in here. But if we look at the map over here, we can see that the Air France aircraft likely has already moved away, maybe has already switched off, or maybe has arrived at the gate. On its way to the gate, I'm not sure, but you will see that it's likely not visible on this map anymore. And that's what is a challenge, because this means that this is 100% real time versus what you currently see is a little bit delayed, and those are those, I would say, 5 or between 5 and 15 minutes. That's the delay they say. That's what you can experience. Now what I did then is compared it in this case with FlightAware. But with FlightAware there's a challenge, and you can already see it. You can see that the aircrafts are partially visible. And that also clarifies why the taxiing is sometimes a mess. Or at least I do think it might be a reason. Because you can only see the aircrafts which are moving and are, I would say, kind of airborne. And that could be the limitation which, let's say, could explain some of the things which we're seeing. But let's see how much delay there is between FlightAware and Flight Simulator 2024. And to do that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the aircrafts. Or let's first look at one which is, I would say, arriving. So here we can see that in this case AFR 7405, which is an A320, is inbound to this runway, right? Runway, what is it? 08 Romeo. And we can see the aircraft already there. Here we can see that the aircraft has landed, right? Very close on runway, where in Flight Simulator it's, would say, almost there. So I do say, well, what should it be? Maybe 1-2 minutes delay, but here you can see that the livery simply matches. So this is nice. So let's do another check, right? Let's do another check and let's go to an I would say let's go to departing runway to see what we see there. Here we go. You can see more and more models are being added. And in this case what you also see is that the aircraft which are, let's say, on their way to the runway, those likely won't be shown, right? You can see CIP 380, you can't see it on the map. If we would look at the other ones, we also don't see them, right? They simply disappear. It looks like that once they're hitting the ground, they will simply disappear. But that's my, I would say, my guess. So now I of course want to see, okay, hey, where are the departing airports or aircrafts, sorry. So let's see if we can find one. And then I'm looking for a bigger one, right? Not a smaller one. Maybe we should go to that other runway. And you can see that more and more aircrafts are coming in. So what you could do, if you want, is you could remove all parked aircrafts and then simply wait, because eventually they will be populated using these, I would say, new models. So you can see that Flight Radar or 3. We can see that this aircraft has been loaded. We can see that FlightAware is being, say, refreshed. I was hoping that I could see some departing aircrafts. Well, maybe we spotted one. Because here we can see AFR. No, this one is also going away. It's going. No, not going away. It's on its way to the. Say, yeah, to the gate. So here you can see that, say, the arriving aircrafts are, say, super visible. Here you can see, by the way, a very cool one. It looks like. Let's have a look at it. Vista Jet. There's no picture. Let's see if we can spot an aircraft which is, I would say, going to depart. But it's always a challenge because they might be, say, not that busy at the airport currently. So let me check it over here. Because here you can all see a lot of aircrafts, but there are, say, either, say, between brackets, waiting for something to happen. But here it looks like that the THI one is going to the runway. Right, this is in this case Turkish Airlines, which is on its way to runway, what is it? Let's have a look at it. Runway 09 Romeo. And I do expect, and that's again a guess, that it will be visible once I would say the aircraft goes airborne. Because if we look at the other one, which is over here, you can see that this was the Delta Airlines aircraft. If we would likely move around, we might be able to spot it somewhere. Let's see. You can see that there are a lot of aircrafts now, which is, I would say, because I set it to the maximum, right? So we wait for the Delta Airlines, or sorry, the Turkish Airlines. And we missed this one, because there's another one airborne for Air France. That's the 1640. And here you can see, oh here, let's fly quickly to this one, because this one is in the air already in FlightAware. But here you can see on the runway or on the taxi way, it's on its way to the runway. So here you can see the delay which is there. Also after this one, you can see that on the flight radar one, or sorry, FlightAware one, that the THI, the one which we were just looking at, which was on its way to runway, was, I would say, still, on its way. But the cool thing is, and that's the most important thing, I do think, is that the livery is, I would say, matching, right? The livery is correct, and I also see that the flight number is correct, which makes it, I would say, more realistic. So here you can see that the AFR already, I would say, made a left turn, and on this case it's, I would say, still waiting to depart. So let's follow it. Here it goes. What can we conclude based on this? Well, there is a delay, of course, and that's kind of expected, because it's not live data, it's delay data. Delay between 5 and the delay is between 5 and 15 minutes according to the official documentation, but I think it might be even less in some scenarios. What does it mean, right? Is this a good alternative, for example, for the other tools which are available? Do you really need to have payware? Well, I would say if you don't have a hard requirement that it's really real time and you can live with kind of a small delay, then this is a perfect solution, because you can use both the models of FSLTL as well as AIG. The same trick works for other models, right? So if you bought payware, for example from Just Flight, and you want to combine it with, for example, FSLTL, you can do it. If you want to combine it with some other tools, you can still do it by performing the same trick as I showed you earlier in this video. As already promised, I would show you a way how to install the flight models from FSLTL another way. Although the recommended way still is the FBW, right, the fly-by-wire installer. If you go to this GitHub repository, and I will put a link in the description of this video, also for the other one, by the way, you can download this package, you can clone it, and then you simply need to move this one inside your community folder, because if you go to this, you can see that it contains exactly the same files which we install via the fly-by-wire installer. So it's really up to you. Nice thing about this is that this also shows you what has been fixed. So up to you. If you're feeling comfortable with GitHub, this could be a way. If you're not feeling comfortable, then I would stick with the fly-by-wire installer. So here's my question for you. Are you gonna buy a solution which provides you real-time traffic, or will you stick with this kind of hybrid setup where you use the default technology within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and accepting the small delay, and then combine it with these models provided by both AIG and FSLTL for free? Let me know in the comment box below, because I'm curious which one you choose.